We need some type of closure. Like, I don't care how long it takes. Like, I don't care how long it takes. We're not giving up at all.
Tonight, we finally know what happened to missing Lafayette woman Ella Goodie. This after suspect Brandon Francisco pled guilty to federal charges.
We don't have a body. We don't have anything.
After 3 years and 9 months, Ella's family have some answers. Brandon Francisco detailing to federal agents what happened on March 9th, 2022.
Once we heard the news, I would have been more strong, you know. But it's like when I heard the news, it just broke me down more because, like, I hear the indictment and all that situation, but okay, where is she?
A mother of two accepts what seems like a simple rideshare request. 12 hours later, traffic cameras capture her car crossing back into Louisiana. But Ella Goodie never makes it home. Her vehicle is discovered 800 miles away, soaked in blood with 2 bullet holes piercing through it. And the passenger she picked up that day? A violent predator with a history of stabbing women and a court date he was desperate to avoid. A court date scheduled for the exact same day Ella disappeared. Welcome to Crime Bitz. Would you ever get into a car with a complete stranger for money? That's the reality thousands of rideshare drivers face every single day. Drop a comment below and let me know your thoughts on gig economy safety. March 11, 2022, Lafayette, Louisiana. Ella Goodie's brother walks into the Scott Police Department with a knot of anxiety tightening in his chest. His 33-year-old sister hasn't been seen in 2 days. For a woman who spoke to her 2 teenage children every single day, this silence is deafening. The last time anyone heard from Ella was March 9th, when she told her kids, ages 13 and 14, that she was driving someone to Houston, Texas, and would be back the next day. It was supposed to be routine. Easy money. But Ella never returned. Scott police immediately reviewed traffic camera footage along Interstate 10. What they discovered painted a chilling timeline. Cameras captured Ella's distinctive black 2012 Audi Q5 heading westbound toward Texas on March 9th. Then approximately 12 hours later, the same vehicle appeared heading back into Louisiana. But where was Ella? On March 16th, police announced they had identified a person of interest, Brandon Jermaine Francisco, a 38-year-old man from Mansura, Louisiana. Francisco was believed to be the last person to see Ella alive, allegedly the passenger she had agreed to drive to Houston. But there was something else that made law enforcement's blood run cold. Brandon Francisco was supposed to be in court on March 9th, the exact day Ella disappeared, but he never showed up. Ella grew up in Lafayette Parish facing challenges most children never experience. Her mother was disabled, unable to care for herself or Ella's younger brother. From a young age, Ella became the caretaker, cooking meals, helping with bills, looking after her brother. Her best friend, Felicia Broussard, remembered her spirit vividly. No matter what hardships life threw at her, Ella radiated positivity. When she walked into a room, you knew she was there. By 2022, Ella had 2 teenage children of her own and was a devoted single mother. But providing for them wasn't easy financially. In early 2022, looking for additional income, Ella began working as a rideshare driver for Lyft and Uber. After fees and commissions, the money wasn't always enough. So Ella made a decision that thousands of rideshare drivers make every year. She started taking rides outside the app. Direct customers meant no middleman, no hefty service fees. It seemed smart, but it also meant she was operating without the limited safety features the apps provided. No GPS tracking, no emergency buttons, no digital record of who was in her car. Felicia later said she had suggested Ella try Lyft, but Ella wanted to earn more. She needed more. And that need would lead her directly into the path of a monster. Brandon Jermaine Francisco wasn't just a passenger looking for a ride. He was a man running from consequences, and his past was littered with violence against women. In 2007, Francisco was convicted of attempted murder after brutally stabbing his ex-girlfriend upwards of 20 times in Avoyelles Parish. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison. But even after serving his time, Francisco didn't change. On Christmas Eve 2018, near Cheneyville, Louisiana, a man was found critically wounded from a shooting. Investigators identified Francisco as the suspect in a drug debt-related attack. He was charged with attempted second-degree murder, conspiracy to commit second-degree murder, theft of an automobile, and obstruction of justice. Despite his violent criminal history, Francisco was released on bond while awaiting trial. A trial scheduled for March 9, 2022. But Francisco had no intention of facing justice. Prosecutors later revealed he was planning to flee Louisiana to escape the attempted murder charges. He needed a way out of the state that wouldn't draw attention. That's where Ella came in. Authorities believe Francisco contacted Ella for a ride to Houston, far enough away to disappear. But Francisco couldn't leave witnesses behind. The Rapides Parish District Attorney's Office later characterized Francisco as a habitual offender and significant flight risk. His criminal history spanned over 2 decades, marked by escalating violence. He was a danger to society, especially to women. Yet the system had repeatedly released him, giving him chance after chance to hurt someone else. On March 9, 2022, as Ella pulled up to pick up her passenger, she had no idea she was about to become the next name on Brandon Francisco's list of victims. The morning of March 9, 2022, started like any other for Ella. She kissed her teenagers goodbye, told them she'd be back the next day, and climbed into her black Audi Q5. Meanwhile, Brandon Francisco was supposed to be at the Rapides Parish Courthouse that morning for his attempted murder trial. When court officials called his name, the courtroom fell silent. Francisco was nowhere to be found. A warrant was immediately issued for his arrest, but by then, he was already gone. Traffic cameras tracked Ella's vehicle merging onto Interstate 10 heading westbound. Inside that car, investigators believe, sat Brandon Francisco. The journey from Scott to Houston takes roughly 4 hours under normal conditions, but something went horribly wrong during that drive. Approximately 12 hours after Ella's car was spotted heading into Texas, traffic cameras captured the same Audi Q5 returning to Louisiana. But Ella wasn't driving anymore. By March 10th, cameras picked up her vehicle far north of its expected route, near Dallas, over 500 miles from home. Ella's children waited anxiously. 1 day passed, then 2. By March 11th, when Ella still hadn't returned or made contact, her brother knew something was terribly wrong. On November 13, 2024, more than 2.5 years after Ella disappeared, Brandon Francisco stood before a federal judge and confessed to her murder. According to his guilty plea, Francisco admitted that on March 9, 2022, while Ella was driving him toward Houston, he shot her multiple times with a SCCY 9mm handgun, the same type of weapon investigators would later charge him with possessing illegally as a convicted felon. But shooting Ella wasn't enough. He needed to dispose of evidence. After killing Ella, Francisco took control of her vehicle. He drove her Audi with her body inside, searching for a place to hide what he'd done. At some point during this horrific journey, Francisco stopped and disposed of Ella's body in a location that, to this day, has never been discovered. Then he continued driving, taking Ella's car north through Texas, past Dallas, all the way to Missouri. Why Missouri? Because Francisco knew he could disappear there. St. Joseph, Missouri, is more than 800 miles from Scott, Louisiana, a place where a violent fugitive could start over. But Francisco left evidence behind. When law enforcement recovered Ella's Audi on April 1, 2022, in St. Joseph, the scene inside told a story of unspeakable violence. The passenger side floorboard was saturated with blood. Ella's blood. 2 bullet holes pierced through the vehicle. The car also yielded proof that Francisco had been inside. His possession of Ella's vehicle, combined with the ballistic evidence and blood, painted an undeniable picture of what had happened. The investigation moved swiftly once police identified Francisco as their person of interest. On March 25, 2022, 16 days after Ella vanished, U.S. Marshals located Francisco in St. Joseph, Missouri. He was arrested on the warrant for failing to appear in court and by the Buchanan County Drug Strike Force for unlawful possession of a firearm, the same firearm authorities believe he used to kill Ella. A week later, on April 1st, investigators made a critical discovery. Ella's black Audi Q5 was found abandoned in St. Joseph, the exact city where Francisco had been captured. The vehicle was processed as a crime scene. Blood evidence was collected. The bullet holes were documented. Everything pointed to murder and a desperate cover-up. Francisco was extradited back to Louisiana. On April 19, 2022, law enforcement conducted an extensive search near the Calcasieu-Jeff Davis Parish line around the Iowa exit off Interstate 10, the last location where Ella's cell phone had pinged before going dark. Searchers combed through rural areas. They found nothing. On May 3, 2022, Louisiana State Police made a devastating announcement. Based on investigative techniques and witness statements, Ella's case was being reclassified from missing person to homicide. The hope that she might be found alive was gone. In October 2022, Francisco pleaded guilty to attempted second-degree murder for the 2018 Cheneyville shooting and was sentenced to 30 years in prison. But that wasn't enough. Ella's family and law enforcement demanded justice for her murder. On March 17, 2023, the case file was turned over to the Calcasieu Parish District Attorney's Office for grand jury consideration. The DA's office described it as voluminous, thousands of pages of evidence all pointing to one conclusion: Brandon Francisco murdered Ella Goodie. The breakthrough came in November 2024. A federal grand jury in Lafayette returned a 4-count indictment against Francisco: carjacking resulting in death, using a firearm during commission of a crime of violence, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, and flight to avoid prosecution. On November 13, 2024, Brandon Francisco appeared in federal court and pleaded guilty to carjacking resulting in death. Under the binding plea agreement, Francisco will receive a mandatory life sentence in federal prison. His formal sentencing is scheduled for January 27, 2026, but the outcome is already determined. Francisco will die behind bars. Yet even with Francisco's confession and guilty plea, one devastating question remains: where is Ella? For Ella's family, the guilty plea brought bittersweet closure. After nearly 3 years of waiting, they finally had confirmation of what they'd feared. Ella was gone. She had been murdered, and the man responsible had finally admitted it. But that confirmation came with an agonizing reality. Ella's body has never been recovered. Ella's cousin, Renetra Allaire, spoke to reporters with emotion. Once we heard the news, I thought I'd be more strong, but when I heard it just broke me down even more. Because I heard the indictment, but where is she? The family has a confession. They have justice in the form of a life sentence. But they don't have Ella. They can't give her a proper burial. They can't visit her grave. They can't say goodbye. Ella's cousin, Diasha Johnson, made a direct plea to Francisco. Brandon, say something, anything for her children's sake. If you're going to be selfish about killing her, just say it. The damage is already done. She's gone. Ella's children have had to navigate crucial years without their mother. Her brother, Ella Goodie, spoke about his sister. If you knew Ella, that was enough. She was going to give you the shirt off her back. She'd help you if she had it. I just want her to come home. The community rallied around Ella's family. Vigils were held. Digital billboards displayed Ella's picture. A GoFundMe was established for her children's future. But the larger question looming over this case: how was Brandon Francisco free to kill her in the first place? In 2007, he nearly killed his ex-girlfriend. He served 10 years. Then in 2018, he shot a man. Yet he was released on bond, given another chance despite being a documented violent repeat offender. During a 2022 court hearing, prosecutors tried to have Francisco's bond revoked. That request was denied. Days later, on March 9th, instead of appearing in court, he climbed into Ella Goodie's car and ended her life. As one family member put it, this man was supposed to have been locked up. By not locking this man up and continuing to let him out after he had 2 attempted murder charges, he should have never been roaming. He was a danger to society. The case also highlights the dangers of gig economy work. When Ella chose to take rides independently to earn more money, she lost access to limited safety features apps provide, GPS tracking, emergency buttons, trip sharing with trusted contacts. Research shows nearly 80% of rideshare drivers report feeling unsafe at least once a month, and 40% have experienced sexual harassment. For women and minority drivers, the risks are even higher. When drivers operate outside the apps, as Ella did, those risks multiply exponentially. Ella Goodie's case is a stark reminder that the people we trust to get us safely from place to place are themselves vulnerable. They open their cars to strangers. Sometimes those passengers are predators. Today, Ella Goodie would have been 36 years old. Her children are growing up without her. Her brother, her cousins, her friends, they all carry the weight of her absence every single day. But they refuse to let Ella be forgotten. We need some type of closure. Deasha Johnson said through tears, "I don't care how long it takes. We are not giving up." The family continues to share Ella's story on social media, on billboards, in interviews. They've created a Facebook group called Help Find Ella, where anyone with information can reach out anonymously. They've turned their grief into advocacy. There's a particular kind of torture in not knowing where your loved one is. Grief has no endpoint when there's no body to bury. Ella's family exists in suspended mourning, unable to fully move forward because they don't have that final piece of closure. Yet in the midst of their pain, they hold on to hope. Hope that someday, someone will come forward with information about where Brandon Francisco left Ella's body. Hope that they'll be able to bring her home. On May 20th, 2022, at a candlelight vigil held in Ella's honor, dozens of people gathered to remember her. They held candles high against the darkness. City Council member Patrick Lewis addressed the crowd. "I just want everyone to have hope and keep it alive." Because Ella Goodie deserves to come home. Her children deserve to have a place where they can go to talk to their mother. Her family deserves the dignity of laying her to rest properly. Brandon Francisco may have taken Ella's life, but he hasn't been able to erase her memory. Ella's legacy lives on in the two children she loved more than anything, in the community that refuses to forget her, and in the countless rideshare drivers who now share her story as a cautionary tale. Ella was a caretaker from childhood. She took care of her disabled mother, her younger brother, and eventually her own two children. She worked tirelessly to provide for them. She opened her car to a stranger because she needed the money to give her kids a better life. And for that act of desperation born from love, she paid the ultimate price. Nearly 3 years have passed since Ella disappeared, and one haunting question continues. Where is Ella? Despite Francisco's confession, despite the blood-soaked car, despite exhaustive searches, Ella's body has never been found. The last confirmed ping from her cell phone placed her near the Iowa exit of Interstate 10. Law enforcement conducted extensive searches of that region, but the Louisiana landscape is unforgiving. Thick with swamps, dense forests, and abandoned properties where secrets can stay buried forever. Francisco knows exactly where he left Ella. He admitted to disposing of her body, but so far, he hasn't revealed that location. Perhaps he's exercising the last bit of power he has over Ella's family, cruelly denying them closure even as he faces life in prison. The FBI, Louisiana State Police, and local law enforcement continue to investigate, hoping Francisco might eventually cooperate. But for now, the search continues. Ella's family refuses to let her fade from headlines. "I don't care what post you see, keep sharing," Deasha Johnson pleaded. A lot of people don't know about the case. A lot of people don't know who Ella is. But if you see it, please keep sharing. Brandon Jermaine Francisco will spend the rest of his life in federal prison. On January 27, 2026, he'll stand before a judge for formal sentencing, but the outcome is already determined: life without the possibility of parole. Justice has been served, at least in the legal sense. But true justice would mean Ella Goodie gets to come home. True justice would mean her children get to visit her grave. True justice would mean Francisco tells the truth about where he left her. Until that day comes, Ella's family will keep searching. They'll keep sharing her story. They'll keep her memory alive. This is Crime Bitz, where we shine a light on cases that need to be told. What can we do as a society to better protect gig workers like Ella? Should rideshare companies be held accountable when drivers are hurt or killed? Should there be stricter regulations for repeat violent offenders? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this case touched you, please hit that like button and share this video. Subscribe to Crime Bitz and turn on notifications so you never miss a case. Together, we can keep Ella Goodie's name alive and maybe, just maybe, help bring her home. Remember Ella, share her story, and never stop demanding justice. This is Crime Bitz, signing off.